Hi, my name is Amelia Hicks, and I'm an associate professor in K-State's philosophy department, where I teach a wide variety of courses in ethics and social philosophy. I would say that there are three main features that characterize my teaching. First, I try to provide students with lots of opportunities to do undergraduate research. Second, I try to make sure that students are motivated to do their academic work by their curiosity and not by fear. And third, when it comes to assessing student work, I really emphasize metacognition, which means that I encourage students to think about their own learning processes. One good example of all three of these principles in action is what I call the student-directed semester-long project, which is an assignment that I regularly use in introductory ethics courses. This assignment allows each student to develop an in-depth ethics research project that connects class material with something else that they're already interested in. The project itself can take almost any form as long as it includes rigorous moral reflection that engages with multiple moral perspectives. So, for example, past projects that have been submitted to me include a video in which the student used elementary game theory to discuss moral problems related to the overprescription of antibiotics, and a computer program that asked the user a bunch of ethics questions and then used the user's answers to identify the moral framework that best expressed that user's moral worldview. And a board game in which the players had to strategize about the moral trade-offs involved in phylogenetic research on endangered mammals, and a series of very elaborate one-off Dungeons and Dragons campaigns in which the players had to navigate a bunch of different moral decisions. And then that student actually had her friends play through all of these campaigns, and then she went back and she analyzed how each player interpreted their moral alignment in those games. It was so cool. Here's a brief overview of how this assignment actually plays out in a class. To start off, at the beginning of the semester, students brainstorm with me and with each other to find topics that they're excited to work on. Once they find a topic that they're excited about, they develop a project proposal and they identify goals that they want to meet by the middle of the semester. Second, students actually begin working towards those mid-semester goals that they've set for themselves. And during this time, I ask students to submit short weekly updates so that I can continue to provide guidance and feedback. Third, in the middle of the semester, students submit their mid-semester update. For this update, students submit whatever portions of their project they've completed and a reflection on how the project has gone so far. And as part of that reflection, I also ask students to suggest a midterm project grade for themselves, which is based on a rubric that I provide. Finally, using the feedback they've received on their mid-semester update, students start to put the finishing touches on their projects while continuing to submit short weekly updates. At the end of the semester, they submit their project as well as a written reflection on the process of working on their project, and that reflection also includes a suggested final project grade. Obviously, these projects are great for providing students with opportunities to get started doing undergraduate research, even if they don't have prior experience doing research. Plus, these projects cultivate curiosity-based motivation. Because students develop their projects by tying class material to pre-existing interests, it's easier for students to remain motivated to work on their projects. And the fact that students have a voice in the grading procedure significantly reduces fear-based motivation. Obviously, I do reserve the right to override suggested grades for the sake of fairness to all students, but I found that that is rarely necessary. I usually don't have to do that. These projects have been a really good way for me to communicate to students that what really matters is setting reasonable goals, working towards those goals, and then deliberating carefully about the obstacles that they encounter along the way. What I want students to know is that obstacles and problems are just a normal part of doing research, and they're not something that students need to be afraid of. Finally, because this assignment requires students to repeatedly evaluate the extent to which they've met the goals that they've set for themselves, these projects encourage students to engage in metacognition. More specifically, this assignment encourages students to think about and monitor their own learning. Ultimately, I think that this type of reflection increases students' autonomy and helps them to take charge of their own learning, even in other classes and in other work environments. So that's the semester-long project in a nutshell. I'm Amelia Hicks, and I teach at K-State.